It's time for the Daily Stand Up Podcast presented by Agile Dad with your host, Lee Henson. Without any further ado, let's get started. I remember when we moved from Utah to Florida and we purchased a home here, that part of it was driving one of our vehicles down from Utah to Florida. And I remember distinctly when we drove that drive, it was me and my two sons. And I remember the things that were of the greatest concern to us. One was the weather holding up, making sure that we had a clear passage to get through the mountain ranges to work our way around so we could come down the south coast and come down the east coast rather to the south and make it to Florida. But there were some things that we had to plan in order to make this 20 plus hour drive. And there were other things that we did not actually need to plan. Now, I know what you're thinking. What on earth does this have to do with Agile and where am I taking this? And I think that sometimes when we set our goals, that we need to understand how to properly align sprint goals and what type of things we need to be careful of. So, for this trip, for example, one of the things that I need to be most careful of was making sure that no one was driving while they were drowsy. We needed to make sure that when we needed to stop, we stopped, and that we stayed in a hotel and we slept there, and then we woke up and moved on. Those were things that were incredibly important. And I think that it would have been very easy for me to plan and say, here's a nice city, and we could stop here, and then we could stop here. But either in that case, we may have been making stops unnecessarily, or what if we needed to make a stop sooner? It could have caused us to be on the road for longer. I guess what I'm trying to say is there are times when in our sprints we have to take a detour, or we run into a major traffic jam, or things happen. And maybe we don't do as well when we're on a steep slope, or maybe we have to take a major detour because of an accident. The point I'm trying to make is sometimes we align our goals based on things that are all knowns, when in actuality, we can base some of our goals based on knowns, but be flexible with the unknowns in order for us to pivot and adjust. So, when you're talking about sprint goal, the aim for a sprint goal is to give you a target to aim for, it's to give you a destination. The road you take towards the target should remain flexible, but the target should always be fixed. And when I say fixed, I don't mean specific GPS location, coordinates, unless that's exactly where you need to go. But every single day we hold a daily scrum so that the team can inspect their progress of where they are, how close they are to moving towards their sprint goal. Is it still attainable? Do we need to adjust our pivot course? Do we need to do something different? Do we need to add work or move work, collaborate, get help, give help? We have so many things that we need to consider. But as you inspect the road you're on and look at the map and decide whether it's still leading you in the right direction, if not, you figure out how to course correct. Many teams make sprint goals that say our goal is to finish X, Y, and Z. And when they can't finish, they become sad and say, oh, wow, we didn't, there are things that happened that we didn't consider. This would be similar to saying that my goal was to make it all the way to Florida and I'm going to stop in these three places, when in reality, the fact is I slept somewhere that was a lot nicer and less busy, that I woke up refreshed and was able to drive for longer, and that without the excessive focus on the things that didn't matter, that I was able to more easily make it to my destination. I think part of this too had to do with change in directions. There were a couple of times when we had to pivot and make adjustments. And part of that was to bring us closer to a city that we knew we wanted to visit or sleep in. Another opportunity was for us to see a monument, something that we wanted to see along the way, a landmark. So if those things happen, I think that you can make those adjustments. Also, had we known that there'd be major snow, maybe we would have completely rerouted altogether and not gone along the northern path. We would have went south and went that way across Texas instead. The point I'm trying to make is I've done this drive now 3 or 4 times, and what I can tell you is it's an incredible, beautiful drive. But if you lose sight of the big picture and you focus so much on the road, that you're never going to make it to your destination because you're not being flexible. And when you do get there, it's just going to be a begrudgingly get there, not a celebration. So when you're talking about sprint goals with your team, I think you need to ask them, where do they want to be at the end of the next sprint? Just, and how many hours do you think you have left in you? I know it sounds crazy because I'm talking about time, which I never do with a team. But I think you see where I'm going with this, right? We need to plan the road that we think we're going to take and then be flexible, especially in the early stages when we have the ability to be flexible. And as we get closer to our destination and excitement builds, we can continue to pivot and adjust to make sure we're meeting our end consumers' needs. And if we find that that road is not the road we need to be on, we should take a detour and figure out where we need to go. But don't forget to have fun along the way. Sprint goals aren't about the road, they're about the destination. So that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a topic you want us to cover, feel free to reach out to us at learnmore@agiledad.com, where I'd love to discuss what's going on in your world. And as always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.